you've obviously had people that came before you, your seniors. You've worked with people that in your field. How would you? What is it that you aspire to learn from them as you go forward? So look, take yourself 10 years from now. How would you look at yourself in 10 years time? What is it that you want to learn now so that you can implement along your career? Or how would you do things differently from your current, from the guys that are in front of you? Is there a way that you want to do things differently or learn from them?
Okay, so I have this motto that I love so much, which is be who you needed when you were younger, right? And for me, I always remember my life story, how I actually came to choose engineering and my experiences being in the hard sciences. And I think for me, what I needed the most was visibility of senior professionals, because what happened, like in my case, I actually chose engineering by accident. Really, I didn't even know what a civil engineer was. I just chose it because I was told it was difficult. And when you tell me something is difficult, then I'm like, okay, let's try that and see how that goes. So I have a twin brother. His name is Michael, and he chose civil engineering. He knew what it was from the beginning. He knew he basically had his life all planned out. I had no idea I actually wanted to be a forensic scientist. But the thing that struck me the most was I couldn't have chosen civil engineering because there are not that many visible female civil engineers that I see, and because I don't see a lot of female civil engineers, it doesn't particularly strike me as a profession that I would want to choose. So, for example, you find a lot of girls, even with all the incentives, like right now, there's so many incentives for women to join STEM and things like that, but not many actually take it up because we don't see so many of us out there. I mean, now of course I'm in a better space, and there are lots of people like Nomzamo here. But I imagine when Nomzamo was choosing her own profession, there are very few people who she could look up to and be like, I want to be like that person. So for me, what I would want the senior women to do, and not just even the senior women, even those people like me who are have just entered their field and they're still in their early stages, be out there, be visible, speak out, so that you can then inspire the younger generation to want to be that. And so that is a large a reason why I'm now into engineering education. And I don't know if Tammy will allow me to talk a little bit about my book. Can I do that? Okay, so this is a copy of a children's book that I wrote on civil engineering. And the reason why I wrote this together with my illustrator, her name is Wadzanai. And the reason I wrote this was because, when we are younger, you don't really have, whether it's cartoons, whether it's books that talk about engineering. I mean, we do hear about doctors and nurses and probably pilots and teachers, but you don't really hear about civil engineer. You only probably hear it in your lower and upper sixth form. And by then, I remember a particular career guidance session that we had in my final year at NAS. We're having it for high school students. And for them, even for girls who have decided to do physics, they then opt for medicine because they're like, I don't want to be the only girl in my class. And so I remember hearing that and my heart broke, and I'm like, you don't want to do engineering because you're scared to be the only girl in the class. But then that happens because when they don't see themselves out there, it makes it difficult for them to choose it. It makes it difficult for them to want to remain in that field, because there's very little, like there's a very weak support structure for the women in who choose to become civil engineers or any STEM related field. So, for example, in this particular book, we've got the main character who's a girl. A lot of the characters are also girls. I've also localized, that means the book for Zimbabwe. That means the names and the locations and the processes that are in here are localized. So that means, like, for example, when a child is just on a road and they are seeing a road, say an excavator, for example, after they've read this book, they're able to say, "Mommy, look, there's an excavator." And it's those very simple things that can actually achieve the social justice that we speak of. Because when you have a rural child who has seen this book, right, they become interested in it, in the field, and they can even tell their parents who maybe are not exposed to the STEM related field and want their children to become a teacher. Not that the profession is anything bad, but you want to increase diversity in the STEM field, because it impacts a lot of our lives. So you can imagine when a child has got this information, and it's not just the book, even animation series, the way we have a lot of our superhero stories, instead of making them Spider-Man, make them a civil engineer, and then you have them interested, you have them excited, you have them wanting to do this at the youngest possible stage. And if somebody is interested in it and in grade 7, you can imagine the kind of ideas and innovation that they'll be producing by the time they're in high school, university. They will be creating things that are out of this world. So you will have Africans, Zimbabweans, and African as a whole relating to this profession. It's not just a profession from other continents. It's something that is here in Africa, something that Africans need to take up, something that girls need to take up. So, okay, I've probably said I talk too much. but yeah, I mean, just to round it off, it's just, I do want a lot of the people who are in the profession to just take some time out of their very busy schedules and to just talk about what they do, to reach out to people. I have amazing mentors, and I mean, some of this book would not have been written, okay, maybe, but it would have taken a long time if I didn't have mentors who consistently checked up on me to say, "Michelle, how's your book going? Why don't you do this?" And they review the book, they give me feedback. So that's something that I would really encourage women who are older or professionals, even you, Tammy, you should be able to come to me and say, "Michelle, why don't you join this thing?" So it's not just like maybe a girl and girl thing, because I mean, there are very few women to begin with, and we want so many of them. But then we would also look at the males to also be encouraging the girls to also, take up the profession.
What do you wish you knew when you started off in your career as a young professional about social justice in your work?
I think when I look at my career and I look at some of the decisions that I made along the way, one might actually think that I was deliberate in how I chose the spaces I work in. If I look at where I've been, there's been a common thread which somehow has always been around housing. And in a way, I think I've always viewed housing as being like a very important component in terms of empowering people, because access to property, access to land, and it can actually create, it can be a start, like can be an impetus. So it's always been that, and I think I've always known that I didn't want to just be a quantity surveyor. I've always felt that there had to be more to the profession, and I think that's why I found myself occupying different spaces, working in different environments, because I felt that I wanted to diversify as much as possible, because I felt that there was something that needed to be more about the profession, rather than I hated measuring bills of quantities. I didn't like that, and I couldn't imagine myself doing that for the rest of my life. So So I think, yes, that's what has always driven me. What do I do know? What I do know now, I think where I am career-wise right now is I'm actually doing, for the first time, I think, I'm actually doing work that I really, really love doing. I'm passionate about my work. I'm passionate about it. And even on those days when I, like, maybe the energy is just not there, but then the impact, or that the potential impact that we can do with the work that we do is a driving force for me. And I think the younger self, if I had to have that conversation with the younger version of me, it would be not to doubt that inner voice within, not to doubt the things that I'm passionate about, not to doubt my drive, not to doubt my dreams, not to doubt the vision I have for myself in terms of my career, to go out there, to pursue it, to do it. It might not be conventional, it might not be the same as everybody else, it might not be a textbook example, but I must follow through with it, and I should do it, because at the end of the day, it's gonna take me to spaces or to a place where I can eventually find a space where I do feel that I add value. For the longest time in my career, I worked, but I never really liked what I did. I just worked, you know. And also quantity surveying is something that I stumbled upon, like, from a career book in the library. And I didn't know anything about it. And also the whole thing about women not being represented was also an influencer in the decision that I took. So I never really liked what I did, you know. I never really saw it, you know. And it's taken me a very long time to get to that point of really, like, seeing the value in this. Not that there's no value, there's always value, as I said before, but for my own, like, to find meaning, find a sense of meaning and a sense of purpose, you know. And I think it gets to that point where, like, as you get older, like, the purpose, like, the meaning becomes much more important than just waking up and having a job and earning a salary. It's about how do I grow in the process, and what is it that I'm giving back? How am I being of service through the work that I do, you know?